We're now going to explore the teaching of spelling and word spelling. This is a very long video that goes hand in hand with a reading assignment, so make sure you've set aside some time to prepare. This video will guide you through your reading assignment, helping you to see key terms and concepts as you go. If you're not prepared to watch the video yet, press pause and make sure that you have everything you need. Don't forget, there's a quiz that closes Friday night at midnight, so you need to make sure you're giving yourself enough time to prepare. Word study has two main purposes: to develop a general knowledge of English spelling, and word study increases specific knowledge of words, the spellings, and the meanings of individual words. Becoming fully literate is absolutely dependent on fast, accurate recognition of words and their meanings in text, and fast, accurate production of words in writing, so that readers and writers can focus their attention on making meaning. Understanding of phonics and spelling patterns, high-frequency word recognition, decoding strategies, and insight into word meanings are among the attributes that form the basis of written word knowledge. The best way to develop fast and accurate perception of word features is to engage in meaningful reading and writing, and to have multiple opportunities to examine those same words and word features out of context. When we teach any form of word knowledge, it's important to remember, and equally true, that teaching is not telling. Teaching is allowing students to explore and to practice and to manipulate and to learn. An important key term you'll need to know the definition of for spelling and word study is orthography, which is the conventional spelling system of a language. Another key term you'll need to know is morpheme. A morpheme is a short segment of language that meets three basic criteria. It's a word or part of a word that has meaning. It cannot be divided into smaller, meaningful segments without changing its meaning or leaving a meaningless remainder. It has relatively the same stable meaning in different verbal environments. Developmental researchers have examined the 3 layers of English orthography in relation to the historical evolution of English spelling, as well as developmental progressions from alphabet to pattern to meaning among learners of English. Each layer builds on the one before. In mature readers and writers, there is interaction among the layers. Our spelling system is alphabetic because it represents the relationship between letters and sounds. In the word sat, each sound is represented by a single letter. We blend the sounds for S, A, and T, S, A, T, to read the word sat. In the word chin, we still hear 3 sounds, even though there are 4 letters, C-H-I-N, because the first 2 letters, ch, function like a single letter, representing a single sound. So we can match letters, sometimes singly, sometimes in pairs, to sounds from left to right and create words. This alphabetic layer in English spelling is the first layer of information at work. Why don't we spell all words in English the way they sound? At the alphabetic level, in other words, if we did, words like cape, bead, and light would look like cap, bed, and lit. But these spellings, of course, already represent other words. The pattern layer, therefore, overlies the alphabetic layer because there are 42 to 44 sounds in English and only 26 letters in the alphabet. Single sounds are sometimes spelled with more than one letter, or are affected by other letters that do not stand for any sounds themselves. When we look beyond single letter sound matchups and search for patterns that guide the groupings of letters, however, we find surprising consistency. Take, for example, the ape in cape. We say that the final E makes the preceding vowel letter A stand for a long vowel sound. The E does not stand for the sound itself, but it plays an important role. The ape group of letters therefore follows a pattern. When you have a vowel, a consonant, and a silent E in a single syllable, this letter grouping forms a pattern that usually will function to indicate a long vowel. We refer to this pattern as the consonant vowel consonant silent E, or CVCE pattern, one of several high-frequency long vowel patterns. Words of more than one syllable also follow spelling patterns. These patterns are described with the same V and C symbols and also relate to the vowel sound within each syllable. One of these common syllable patterns is the VCCV pattern, such as in robber or rabbit. The third layer of English orthography is the meaning layer. When students learn that groups of letters can represent meaning directly, they will be much less puzzled when encountering unusual spellings. Examples of these units or groups of letters are prefixes, suffixes, and Greek and Latin roots. These units of meaning are called morphemes, the smallest units of meaning in language. As one example of how meaning functions in the spelling system, think of the prefix re. Whether we hear it pronounced re, as in rethink, or ra, as in remove, its spelling stays the same because it directly represents meaning. Why is composition not spelled composition, since the second vowel sounds more like than o? Because it is related in meaning to compose. The spelling of the second vowel in the related words compose and composition stays the same even though the pronunciation of the second syllable is different. Likewise, the letter sequence photo in photograph, photographer, and photographic signals spelling meaning connections among these words despite the changes in sounds that the letter O represents. Now it's time to read pages 222 to 224 of the article. Read them very carefully. They will further explain the layers as well as word study in general and orthography. Of course, you can always go back through the video to guide you as you're reading. When you're finished page 224, come on back. Let's take a look at the development of orthographic knowledge. When we say word study is developmental, we mean that the study of word features must match the level of word knowledge of the learner. Word study is not a one-size-fits-all program of instruction that begins in the same place for all students within a grade level. One unique quality of word study, as we describe it, lies in the critical role of differentiating instruction for different levels of word knowledge. Research spanning over 30 years has established how students learn the specific features of words, as well as the order in which they learn them. Knowledgeable educators have come to know that the word study instruction must match the needs of the child. This construct, called instructional level, is a powerful determinant of what many have learned and what may be learned by the children. Simply put, we must teach within each child's zone of understanding. When students are instructed within their own zone of understanding, or zone of proximal development, studying words their way, they are able to build on what they already know, to learn what they need to know next, and to move forward. Zone of proximal development was first described by Vygotsky in 1962. The zone refers to the span between what the learner knows and is able to do independently and what he or she is able to do with support and guidance. With direct instruction and ongoing support, word features that were previously omitted or confused become incorporated into an ever-increasing reading and writing vocabulary. There are 6 spelling stages, and you will explore them on pages 224 to 229 of your reading. Pay close attention to Figure 1 on page 225 and 26, as you'll find it very helpful in describing these stages. How do we determine spelling stage? Typically, teachers provide a spelling inventory, but formative assessment reminds us that stages are fluid. An individualized approach is often necessary for some students because everyone is learning at their own pace. The 6 spelling stages include the first 2, prephonemic and semiphonemic, which are often combined into emergent spelling. Next comes letter name, within word, syllable juncture, and derivational constancy. Now it's time to pause the video and read the article, pages 224 to 229. Welcome back. Henderson devised the concept of word study because he was convinced that understanding how children learn to spell words could also provide insight on how they read them. He believed that children's growing word knowledge encompasses information about phonology, or sound, syntax, or grammatical relationships in word order, semantics, or meaning, and orthography. He believed that categorizing written words through word sorts, word hunts, and writing sorts enables learners to sort out the relationships between these types of information. Let's take a look at the best practices for teaching word study. Students should be grouped in homogeneous groups for word study and spelling. Students need to learn at their stages and levels when they're learning word study. Students should examine known words. Often, known words grouped with new words will help students identify the patterns and assist their progress. In D2L, under this instructional video, you'll see one other video. That's an example of a teacher teaching students with known words and new words. Students should be guided towards discovering patterns and generalization among the words they're examining. We do not teach for discovery alone. We don't let the kids try to discover the patterns when it comes to word study. We guide them so they don't go off in the wrong direction. Now it's time to read pages 229 through 231. Please pause the video. Page 233 has Figure 2. It offers an example of a student sorting words to improve word study and spelling skills. While I'd like you to read all of the stages in the remainder of the article, I'd really like you to become an expert on one stage, your choice. While you read this one stage, consider how could you implement an effective word study program for a student at that developmental stage. You'll need to know at least 3 examples of appropriate instructional word study activities. Therefore, when you select which stage, think about students you will be teaching. If you're teaching early years or early elementary, you're going to want to teach one of the beginning emergent reading or letter sound stages. If you're planning to teach middle grades, look for one of the later stages. Before you read this next section, I recommend having a paper to take notes. You'll be transferring this section to your quiz. For example, if I select the stage syllable juncture stage, I will then list the activities that I am suggesting for my student: recording words in word study notebook and discussing them, sorting base words and suffixes, identifying homophones and homographs. However, you will need to thoroughly explain the 3 activities, how they're done, and how and why they'll benefit your students. I don't want to see a list just like mine. You'll need to be able to support your list. For pages 231 to 237, focus on the developmental stage that you select. It should correspond with your teaching interest, as should your suggestions. Therefore, if you're planning to teach music, make sure that your suggestions align with something music-oriented. Pause the video now and work on pages 231 to 237. Okay, You should be ready for your quiz. You should have already read pages 222 to 231 of the article carefully, paying attention to the concepts that were covered in this video. Pages 231 to 237 focused on the developmental stage that you selected. It should correspond with your teaching interest, as should your suggestions. For example, if you plan to teach middle grades, you'll want to discuss a later stage. Before you take the quiz, finish the article and read pages 238 through 39 and be very familiar with the information shared. This is also on the quiz. Know the defining characteristics of each spelling stage and be able to identify 3 benefits of word study instruction for all learners. All learners. Finally, below this video, I have included a video of a teacher instructing word study in a classroom. If you need help visualizing word study, I recommend you view it. It will be very helpful. All right, you now have a quiz to take, which closes Friday at 11:59. Good luck.